I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my homies? Hope you're doing well, feeling blessed, having a good start to 2025. We're officially back. This is the first breakdown of the year. It's going to be Amanda Ribas versus Mackenzie Dern in a rematch in the main event. And guys, you can find all of my betting results this year on this site right here. And my username is going to be UFC Lay in capitals. I'll leave the link in the pinned comment below. You can also find all of my bets at the usual place, patreon.com/UFCGA. And again, I'll post the link in the pinned comment below. Alright guys, let's go. We're back. UFC 2025, we're back. No more waiting. Let's do it again. Let's go. Moving into the first matchup, we've got Solecki taking on Nurullo Aliev. And Nurullo Aliev is a cardboard cutout version of Khabib Nurmagomedov, or Khabib ordered from Wish. Nurullo Aliev is all about the wrestling, and in all fairness, he's pretty good at wrestling. But here's the thing though, Solecki is really good at jiu-jitsu. So if Nurullo Aliev chooses his usual game plan of wrestle the opponent to the canvas, he's essentially playing with fire. But then we have to ask ourselves, does the jiu-jitsu of Solecki outclass the wrestling positional control of Nurullo Aliev? It's not really a black and white answer. For example, MMA fans across the globe, UFC fans across the globe would always discuss how would the ground game go in a fight between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. On one side you had this wrestling animal, super strong hips, excellent submission defense, excellent submission offense, ruthless ground and pound. Then on the flip side you had nasty elbows, you had slick darce chokes, you had trickiness and violence from their back. It was a great discussion. But we didn't get that fight between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. Now, I'm not saying that Solecki and Nurullo Aliev is going to give us what Khabib and Tony would have. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is this. Solecki has really good jiu-jitsu and Nurullo has really good wrestling. So the question is this. Can Solecki find an armbar? Can he find a ghillie? Can he find something that makes Aliev want to submit? I'm going to say no. And I'm also going to say that when Nurullo Aliev survives those submission attempts by Solecki, then he's going to start to go to work. He's going to start to land his ground and pound. And Solecki may find himself in a position where he's submitting. And his version of submitting isn't going to be to tap, you know? His version of submitting is going to be to cover up and not want to get hit anymore. Because once the jiu-jitsu player attempts their submission attempts, fails on that, now they start to get ground and pounded. You know, some fighters are going to make you pay for those failed submission attempts. And Khabib Nurmagomedov was one of those guys. This is a cardboard cutout version of Khabib Nurmagomedov. So if Solecki fails, which I think he will, on the submission attempts, Nurullo Aliev, he has to start to go to work. He has to land his ground and pound. He has to smash Solecki the way Khabib Nurmagomedov would have smashed Tony Ferguson if Tony Ferguson failed on, you know, the darce choke, the triangle choke. Khabib would have made him pay. And, you know, the black belt goes from black belt to brown belt to purple belt with each punch. Now you're a blue belt. Now you're a white belt and you're covering up and the ref stopping the fight. So yeah, I'll take Nurullo Aliev as the prediction. Moving into the next matchup, we've got Viktoria Dudakova taking on Fatima Kline. And Viktoria Dudakova, 8 wins, 1 loss as a professional mixed martial artist. 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Her debut win wasn't really a win. It was more like a doctor's stoppage because Estela Nunes booked herself a ticket to Snap City. You don't want to go to Snap City. You want to go to Money City. Against Jinyu Fry though, that was a nice win. Her boxing looked good. The boxing speed, it looked good. Most recently though, she experienced her first loss against a scrappy tough Sam Hughes. On the flip side though, we've got Fatima Kline, who's actually pretty skilled. Her kickboxing's good, her grappling's good, and she's definitely skilled. But she also experienced losing for the first time against a scrappy strong Jasmine Jasdavicius. So both of these fighters experiencing strong opposition that aren't necessarily technicians, but rather scrappy strong athletes to just find a way to win. And usually, when you're looking at Jasmine Jasdavicius or Sam Hughes, their wins are very scrappy. You know, it's a showcase of strength, determination, willing to dig deep and to win those scrappy fights, those strong, tough fights. This time, though, I don't see Dudakova being ragdolled, and I can't see Fatima Kline also being ragdolled. I think this fight's more about skill. It's more about technique. And usually in women's mixed martial arts, I like to think more about the physicality. I like to think more about the strength, because time and time again, I've seen the physically stronger athlete in women's mixed martial arts get their hand raised, get the win. For this matchup though, I'm thinking more about speed and technique. I'm just thinking about skill. And I think Fatima Kline, her kickboxing is better. Her grappling is better. So skill-wise, I think the pick is Fatima Kline. That's the pick. Now moving into the next matchup, we've got Magomed Gadzhiyasulov taking on Bruno Lopes. So let's start the breakdown with the undefeated fighter, Magomed Gadzhiyasulov, who's 9-0 as a professional mixed martial artist, 1-0 inside the UFC. Gadzhiyasulov, in my opinion, is certainly a prospect. His footwork is very good. He's never planted on his feet. His calf kicks are very decent, and his footwork allows for him to catch the opponent off guard. He can actually land those low kicks very effectively. And don't forget, guys, the setup of the technique is very important. And Gadzhiyasulov, he sets up those calf kicks with instant delivery time. There's no wind up. There's no telegraph. He just finds the calf. His grappling is also pretty good. He kind of lays in full guard. Hasn't really shown his full potential on the canvas just yet. But overall, I really like what I see from Magomed Gadzhiyasulov. On the flip side, we've got Bruno Lopes, who absolutely deserves his contract with the UFC. He got knocked down on the contender, fought through adversity, and actually found a TKO stoppage to the body of his opponent. Previous to that fight though, he got dusted. And when he got dusted, it was on the contender. He fought Brenton Ribeiro. And I kind of feel like the footwork of Bruno Lopes is maybe why he got knocked dead in that fight. Even when he got dropped in his last fight, it's maybe down to the fact that his footwork isn't really the best. He kind of freezes up at times, which that's not a good thing to do. You know, punches are being thrown your way. If you're not reacting to those strikes, then you're probably getting hit. You're probably absorbing the damage coming your way. And I kind of feel that way a little bit with Bruno Lopes. The feet aren't moving as well as Gadzhiyasulov, and his chin's in the sky. He'll kind of freeze up at times, and that's where, you know, he gets dropped. Having said all of that though, Bruno Lopes certainly has big power. He's got knockdown power in his hands. But from a technical perspective, I just think Gadzhiyasulov, he moves his feet much better than Lopes. And I also think the calf kicks of Gadzhiyasulov are executed much better than the calf kicks of Bruno Lopes. Because Bruno Lopes, he does have good calf kicks. But then you compare him to the calf kicks and the setups of Gadzhiyasulov, and it's like, Gadzhiyasulov's just better. And I also think the grappling, the wrestling, like I say, for Gadzhiyasulov, he needs to advance position when he gets a takedown, not just laying guard. We need to see the full potential of the grappling ability of Gadzhiyasulov, and fighting against someone like Bruno Lopes, we may see that. We may see some progression in the ground game. So yeah, overall, I just think skill-wise, it's Gadzhiyasulov. Now moving into a matchup between Ernesta Kareckaite taking on Nicolle Caliari. And we're going to start the breakdown with the tested UFC fighter, Ernesta Kareckaite, who's 0-1 inside the UFC. But she went over to Brazil for her UFC debut, and she fought the highly touted prospect, Diane the Witch Barboza. And in all fairness, I kind of think Ernesta could have done more in that fight. It kind of seemed like she just didn't pull the trigger enough. You know, even when Diane Barboza was tired midway into round 2, Ernesta just didn't pull the trigger. We need to see a different Ernesta in this fight. We need to see someone that's actually going to throw, and not just throw to throw. You're throwing to dust the opponent. You're throwing to actually hurt the opposition. Now on the flip side, we've got a debutant Brazilian fighter, Nicolle Caliari, who executed a perfect belly down armbar in round 1 on the Contender Series. Now that's good stuff. That's violent stuff. So if Caliari gets a takedown, there's a chance he snaps up a limb of Ernesta, because Ernesta does have these long limbs that are perfect for snapping in jiu-jitsu. It's those short stubby arms that are tougher to snap, but the long limbs, with basic technique, you can find a snap. So there's certainly a chance that Caliari pulls off that submission. However, Caliari is pretty inexperienced, and I kind of think we all get to see that inexperience when the fight leaves round 1. If the fight leaves round 1, it should leave round 1. Something tells me that Caliari, she's going to slow down. She's going to look a bit uncomfortable on the feet. And at this point, Ernesta, she's letting her punches go way more than what she did against Barboza. And she's doing it way earlier. So there's more time to score on the feet against the Caliari that's starting to slow down, starting to feel, you know, the inexperience of what she's not experienced yet. And we may see that on the feet. So something tells me that Kareckaite, she's the pick to make, just based on experience. But at the same time, you're looking at her punches, you're looking at the way she didn't really pull the trigger against Arnie Barboza, and you're also looking at Caliari execute a perfect armbar in round 1. You know what I'm saying? There's a chance the underdog does win, but the experience, man, Kareckaite, if she wants to win, let the strikes go in round 2 and avoid the canvas. I'm going to pick Kareckaite. Moving into the next contest, we've got Preston Parsons taking on Jacobe Smith. And I just want to say, Preston Parsons, why did you accept this fight? Why? If you're Preston Parsons, why do you accept this? Who's your manager? Tell your manager you did a bad job. Tell your manager that. Because Jacobe Smith, in my opinion, this guy's the real deal. I'm going to call it right now. Jacobe Smith, this guy's the real deal. And if Preston Parsons goes in there and defeats Jacobe Smith, I'll hold my hands up. I'll say, look, I overestimated Jacobe and I underestimated Preston. I'll say that. But I can tell you right now, what I strongly believe right now in this point in time, what I strongly believe is Jacobe Smith is levels and levels above Preston Parsons. Jacobe Smith has both the wrestling and the knockdown power, the knockout power, the pure dustoration in the 4-ounce glove. Whereas, guys, on the flip side, what does Preston Parsons really have? His boxing's, you know, it's okay. It's nothing special. He's not really got knockdown power or knockout power. He's defensively bad. He leaves his boxing guard open, which, you know, the punches land because of that. His cardio ain't great, even though he will push a pace. He'll start to slow down, but he'll continue to push a pace. But that's where, you know, Jacobe Smith, he'll just break off the fence. Even if Preston Parsons slows down and he's still pushing a pace and he still gets Jacobe Smith to the fence, he'll just break off. He'll just show that defensive wrestling and he'll break off. And Preston Parsons, with his octagon name being Pressure, he's still going to press forward even when he's tired. But here's the fun thing. That's where he walks into a right hand of Jacobe Smith. That's where he walks into the haymaker that's going to send him to the King of Shadow City. That's right. The King of Shadow City, Ben Askren, is still waiting for the first arrivals of 2025. And Preston Parsons, with his pressure style, walking forward, defensively bad, against a devastating knockout artist in Jacobe Smith, who has devastating power in that right hand, and he can wrestle. And when Preston Parsons slows down, you're going to see all of this. You're going to see Jacobe Smith dust him. I think he's a lock. Next matchup, we've got Thiago Moises taking on Trey Ogden. And guys, to be honest with you, when I first saw this matchup, I was thinking, Trey Ogden, that's the pick, man. Trey Ogden, that's the pick. Because Trey Ogden, he's looked really good. His boxing is working. His footwork is working. His timing, his speed, his ability to mix in the level changes into his performance at the right time, and his excellent jiu-jitsu, his ground game. I've been really impressed with Trey Ogden. His performances, they've been very decent. However, Thiago Moises, he ain't bad. He's definitely not elite, but he is an elite Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. There's a difference between American jiu-jitsu and black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu. There's a difference. And I kind of think Trey Ogden would get out grappled against Thiago Moises. I don't think he's going to get dominated on the canvas. I don't think he's going to get badly destroyed on the mat. I do think he's going to compete with Thiago Moises, you know, have his moments where he sweeps or attacks the leg, attacks an arm, attacks with a triangle. He's going to have his moments. But overall, I think the grappling skill of Thiago Moises is a few elo points higher in the jiu-jitsu. But here's the bad thing. Thiago Moises has had multiple dusty performances, like against Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez had an absolute field day in the striking against Thiago Moises, or the time against Benoit Saint Denis, who easily bullied Thiago Moises around the cage like a punch bag, or the time Ludovic Kline outclassed Thiago Moises so easily that you're thinking he could have done the same thing with a blindfold on. You know, that's how easy it was for some of these guys in the striking against Thiago Moises. So if Trey Ogden just stays on the feet and just stays kickboxing, stays boxing, I think he could win this fight. I mean, Trey Ogden, he outboxed Nicholas Motta. He beat Nicholas Motta at his own game. And Nicholas Motta, his boxing's good. His boxing is very good. And he was able to land the jab. He was able to out-jab Nicholas Motta. He beat him at his own game. So can Trey Ogden beat Thiago Moises in the stand-up? I think he could. Just watch out for the Muay Thai kicks of Thiago Moises. He's going to throw those Muay Thai kicks because the Brazilians, if they're grapplers, they do still train Muay Thai. So the kicks of Thiago Moises, they're going to be there. But boxing-wise, I like Trey Ogden on the feet. But I kind of think Thiago Moises, with his experience, he's going to grapple. He's going to grapple against Trey Ogden because you kind of have to. You kind of have to if you want to win this matchup. I'm going to take Thiago Moises, but it's not a confident pick. Moving into the next matchup, we've got Marco Tulio taking on Ihor Potieria. Guys, let me know if I'm wrong in saying this, but isn't Marco Tulio an absolute lock? Isn't he an absolute lock? And don't get me wrong, even locks can get dusted. They can get dusted. Countless times I've seen fighters lose who I never expected to lose, right? They just find a way to lose. It does happen. In the fight game, it does happen. But guys, how does Marco Tulio lose? How does he lose? I guess if Marco Tulio does find a way to lose, then I'm going to get to see how that is. But let's be honest, man. Marco Tulio, how does he lose? He just doesn't lose. For anyone who missed Marco Tulio on the Contender, his performance, it was phenomenal. The jab was on display, the low kick, the switch kicks. At times he even followed up that jab with the right hand and the finish. The spinning back kick to the liver to shut down the liver into ground and pound on a defenseless opponent who's praying to the liver gods, please send me a new liver. When I say phenomenal, I mean it. Marco Tulio, he delivered an excellent performance on the Contender, and I certainly believe in his UFC debut against Ihor Potieria, he's going to do the same thing. Now on the flip side, Ihor Potieria, this may be the end. It may be the end, man, because his defense is just not that good. His cardio, it's dusty. He's taken a lot of damage already in his short UFC career, and it does seem quite likely that again, he's going to receive damage. Now, if you're Ihor Potieria, you just go in there and prove me wrong. You go in there and prove everybody wrong, because I'm assuming most people are going to pick Marco Tulio. You're looking at Marco Tulio, you know, the speed, the accuracy, the power. You're looking at that and you're liking that. Then you're looking at Potieria and there's not a lot to like. There's not a lot to like. So if you're Ihor Potieria, you just go in there and prove everyone wrong. You just find Marco Tulio's chin, and you've got to find his chin to the point where there's no recovery for Marco Tulio. You've got to just put him to sleep. Find his chin and put him to sleep. Do to Marco Tulio what other fighters do to you. Because if you don't, guess what's going to happen to Ihor Potieria? Ihor Potieria is going to get dusted. Somebody has to get dusted. So if you're Ihor Potieria, find his chin. Because if you don't, man, Marco Tulio is finding yours. Someone's got to visit the king. Someone's got to visit Ben Askren. It's going to be Potieria again. He likes to visit Ben Askren. I don't know why. He likes to do that. And Marco Tulio, he likes to send them. He'll send you to Shadow City. So yeah, that's the pick. Now moving into a matchup between Jose Johnson taking on Felipe Bunes. And we're going to start my breakdown by mentioning that Jose Johnson, he's 6 foot tall at flyweight. And that's absolutely diabolical. That's illegal. Come on now. Even Sean Woodson, you know that's illegal. Because Sean Woodson be committing the same crime. You know what I'm saying? But listen, Jose Johnson, man, with the broomstick build, he's OP. He's certainly overpowered. However, God gave Jose Johnson the same takedown defense as a newborn baby giraffe. Have you ever seen a newborn baby giraffe try to stand up and try to stay on their feet? They never stay on their feet. Face plant city every time. That's Jose Johnson. Anytime his opponent tries to get a takedown, his takedown defense, it just fails. He finds a way to hit the canvas. He's got that newborn baby giraffe takedown defense. So if you're Felipe Bunes, you know how to win this fight. You have to wrestle. You have to grapple. You have to bring Jose Johnson away from his advantage in the striking, because he does have an advantage on the feet. Jose Johnson has sharp boxing. And Felipe Bunes, he also has power. There's power in the hands of Felipe Bunes, but he's 35 years old. And he basically quit against Josh Fan when the going got tough. And I just can't see him scoring much midway into this fight. If you're going to defeat Jose Johnson, you exploit his newborn baby giraffe takedown defense. That's how you win a fight against Jose Johnson. But I would like to think that if you're Jose Johnson, you stay on the feet, you use that broomstick build, that OP build, and you dust up Felipe Bunes. That's really what Jose Johnson has to show in this fight. Like, show the takedown defense, you know? Improved takedown defense. Because right now, there's no takedown defense. You know what I'm saying? There's none. But if he shows that, if he shows improvements in the defensive wrestling, stays on the feet, and Felipe Bunes, like I say, 35 years old, you know? Midway into the fight, you're going to see that. And Jose Johnson, when he starts to clip his chin, when he starts to find the right timing and the right punch, we're going to see Felipe Bunes potentially quit. So I'm going to side with Jose Johnson to get it done via KO midway into round 2. Next matchup, we've got Punahele Soriano taking on Uros Medic. And we've arrived at my first underdog pick on this card. I'm going to predict that Punahele Soriano is going to win this matchup. But I'm not going to bet on it. I'm not going to bet this fight. I'm not going to bet this pick. I am confident enough to make the prediction, but not confident enough to bet it. Now, the reasons why I'm picking Soriano to win the matchup, he's starting to show his Russian side. You know what I'm saying? He's starting to show that wrestling, that ground and pound. And as we know, that's a very good tactic in mixed martial arts. You know, look at the way Punahele Soriano destroyed and dusted Miguel Baeza. He ragdolled him. He mauled him. There is a few weaknesses in the game of Soriano though. And just to highlight a few, his cardio is kind of dusty because he uses too much energy. All of his punches hold a lot of power. And some of you may be thinking, how's that a weakness? It's a weakness because you can't maintain that. You know what I'm saying? If you're throwing 100% power into every strike in round 1, by round 2, you're not even throwing 50%. You know what I'm saying? And that's because the cardio management of the energy is not good. There's too much energy in every punch in round 1. So the IQ of Punahele Soriano, in my opinion, is not the best. And there's certainly a chance that Uros Medic can showcase his striking skill set on the feet against Punahele Soriano. And Uros Medic, he looked excellent against Tim Means. And granted, it's old man Tim Means, but we still have to admire the technique of the uppercut that smacked and dusted Tim Means, and the right hook that followed up the uppercut that didn't land, but was still chained to the uppercut. I think we still have to give Uros Medic good striking credit in this matchup here. Now, Punahele Soriano, from a striking perspective, he's wide with his punches. He doesn't go from A to B. A to B is a straight line. The jab, the right hand, the straight right hand, that's A to B. Soriano, he'll go like A to C. That's a hook, a wide hook, A to C. You go to the same destination, but the traveling is shorter with the straight punches. And Soriano doesn't really specialize in that technical striking. You know, he's not going A to B. He's more, you know, excuse my language, but he's a hooker. You know what I'm saying? He'll go wide with the punches. He'll go from A to C. It's not in a straight line. It's not direct. He's not getting to the target in the shortest span possible, in the fastest time possible. And that's because he's aggressive and wide with his punches. So I do think from a technical standpoint, Uros Medic can show to be smarter and sharper and faster and more technical on the feet. But Soriano, like I mentioned, he's starting to show his Russian side. He's starting to show his wrestling. And if he just pushes Uros Medic against the fence and starts to use his wrestling against the fence, bring Uros Medic to the canvas. And don't forget, we've already seen Uros Medic, you know, out-wrestled. We've seen him taken to the canvas time and time again. It happened against Miktybek. Now, Miktybek is a better wrestler than Punahele Soriano. But don't tell Puna that. You know, don't tell Puna that. Because right now, he's in that Russian mindset. He's wrestling the opponent. And if he just does that against Uros, he can win this fight. But on the feet, like I say, they're very different. They're very different on the feet. But my prediction, I am going to side with Punahele Soriano, the underdog. and I probably won't bet it. We'll see. We'll see. Moving into the next matchup, we've got Austin Bashi taking on Christian Rodriguez. And we're going to start the breakdown with the UFC newcomer, Austin Bashi, who's 13-0 as a professional mixed martial artist. And I already know what some of you UFC hardcore fans are thinking. Austin Bashi 13-0. Undefeated. And he's fighting our boy Christian Rodriguez. And Christian Rodriguez has a real appetite for handing undefeated prospects their first loss. We call Christian Rodriguez the prospect killer because he takes their O. Christian Rodriguez took the O of Raul Rosas Jr. Christian Rodriguez took the O of Cameron Simon. Christian Rodriguez took the O of Isaac Dolgarian. Will Christian Rodriguez take another O from an undefeated prospect? Would he do it again? Another one? It would be insane work if he did it again. And a lot of people are going to say, look, he's done it multiple times before. He's going to do it again. But in my opinion, no, he's not. He's not going to do it again. Austin Bashi has excellent wrestling, powerful single leg takedowns. And I know the single leg takedowns, they don't work as much at the highest level, but they will work against Christian Rodriguez. Even Isaac Dolgarian got easy takedowns on Christian Rodriguez, at least early in the fight. There's no doubt in my mind that Austin Bashi can get takedowns against C-Rod. I also think Austin Bashi has fast, explosive striking, quick punches, powerful Muay Thai kicks to the body. He's physically strong. He's explosive. He can drive the opponent to the fence where his wrestling is still good. There's a lot to like with the undefeated prospect that is Austin Bashi. But here's the thing. Christian Rodriguez is the prospect killer. And everyone enjoys being undefeated until you get in there with Christian Rodriguez. I think Austin Bashi, if you defeat Christian Rodriguez in your UFC debut, if you do that, then we already have to give this guy a lot of credit. We have to do that because this ain't no layup. It's not a layup. Christian Rodriguez is far from a layup, you know? He's a prospect killer. If anything, it's the opposite. You know what I'm saying? Austin Bashi's getting thrown to the wolves in his UFC debut. And that kind of shows you like the UFC believes in Austin Bashi. The same way they believed in Raul Rosas Jr. The same way they believed in Cameron Simon or Isaac Dolgarian. These are undefeated prospects that Christian Rodriguez has destroyed and outclassed. Can he do it again though? I don't think so, guys. I don't think so. There is two questions for Austin Bashi though that I want to see answered. And the first question is, what's his cardio like? Because looking at Isaac Dolgarian, who fought C-Rod, in round 1, he was dominating C-Rod. And then in round 2, he's dominating the most of round 2. But then he gets tired. And C-Rod, you know, he goes on to win that fight. He nearly stops Isaac Dolgarian in that final round. He starts to destroy Isaac Dolgarian as he's getting tired. What if Austin Bashi does the same thing? Where he dominates round 1, but then he gets tired? You know, what if the same thing happens? And the second thing I want to know with Austin Bashi, how badly does he want to win? Because sometimes, man, or all the time, you're going to get tired in a fight. You're going to feel the fatigue in a fight. But does that burning desire that you have to win, that burning desire to win, does that weigh more than the fatigue? Because, you know, some of these fighters, that burning desire to win, it carries them through the fatigue. And I'm a big believer of skill. I strongly believe the best way to be a champion in mixed martial arts is to be skillful, to naturally be gifted with pure skill. That's the best way, in my opinion. But some fighters, they're not blessed with skill, but they are blessed with a will to win. So I want to know, how does Austin Bashi fight when things get tough? You know, when the opponent is UFC level, and it's clearly the case this time round, you know, Christian Rodriguez, the prospect killer, he's clearly UFC level. How does Austin Bashi deal with the adversity when he starts to slow down, when he's starting to get punched in the face, when things aren't going his way? I want to know what he's made of. I want to know, how much do you want to win? Because skill-wise, I'm looking at his skill and it's excellent. You know, the wrestling, the grappling, the Muay Thai kicks, the explosiveness, the strength. I'm seeing all of that and that's good. But I want to see, how much does he want to win? And Christian Rodriguez, he should test him. He should, but if Austin Bashi just gets takedowns and keeps him on the mat and smashes him open with nasty elbows, you know, what if Austin Bashi stops Christian Rodriguez and we don't really see Austin get tested by C-Rod, what if that happens? That would be insane work, diabolical work in his UFC debut. I'm going to side with Austin Bashi. I might regret this, I might, but something tells me to go with the undefeated fighter, Austin Bashi, even though he's fighting the prospect killer. Christian Rodriguez, man, if you've got to know, don't sign contracts against Christian Rodriguez. But Austin Bashi has. He has, you know. He got that contract and he said, Christian Rodriguez, yeah, I'll sign that, you know. So, yeah, this fight here, it's a banger. It's a banger. I'm going to side with Austin Bashi. That's the pick. Next matchup, we've got Chris Curtis taking on Roman Kopylov. And this one here, this one right here, this is pure fire. Absolute fire. Who doesn't enjoy to watch the excellent counter boxing of the action man, Chris Curtis? He always brings the action. And on the flip side, you've got Roman Kopylov, a pure Russian striking technician, an absolute animal on the feet. And he loves to manage that range. He throws devastating teep kicks and head kicks. He's a pure technician on the feet. So how does a matchup go between a slip and rip counter boxer and a pure striking technician? It seems to me that Roman Kopylov should be able to frustrate Chris Curtis. Don't allow for Chris Curtis to get on the inside. Don't allow for Chris Curtis to fight you in that phone booth. You don't want to be in that phone booth boxing range. You want space. You want to control the space against someone like Chris Curtis, someone that has excellent counter boxing, and they want to be on the inside. They want to be in the phone booth where there's no space. And I think Nasruddin Imavov done a really good job at controlling that space against Chris Curtis. Also, Jacobe put on an absolute masterclass of range management and he blasted heavy kicks at Chris Curtis all night. However, you look at Marc-Andre Barriault, who's an absolute walking punch bag. That's where Chris Curtis is constantly scoring with his boxing because the opponent is just walking into that slip and rip counter style, you know? And Roman Kopylov doesn't really do that. He's not going to walk forward and allow for Chris Curtis to be in that range. He's going to fire kicks and he's going to control that distance between him and his opponent. So it seems to me that the game plan of Kopylov should be, you know, control the space. I want to control the space against Chris Curtis. And there's going to be times where Chris Curtis, he'll mix it up, you know. He'll throw in some fence wrestling. He'll throw in some clinch striking. He'll throw in some takedowns into ground and pound. It's not going to be an easy night against the action man, against the man that can deliver action, you know, against the fence, on the canvas, in the striking, in the clinch. It doesn't matter where the fight goes. Chris Curtis is good there, and he's going to test Roman Kopylov. So guys, I don't really see a fight where Chris Curtis, he's just going to go in there and instantly find his boxing range, just instantly be in that range where he's boxing up Roman Kopylov. I don't really see that. I also don't see a fight where Roman Kopylov, he's just controlling the space from the very start to the very end, and he's just in full control, and there's no adversity whatsoever that goes the way of Roman Kopylov. I don't see that. What I do see though is Roman Kopylov initially controlling the space, landing his teep kick, landing his head kick that potentially lands on the guard of Chris Curtis. He's landing his jab, his direct A to B weapons that are finding the target from A to B in a straight line, direct weapons. I do see him landing those, but what I also see is Chris Curtis eventually pushing Roman Kopylov against the fence, striking him a clinch, you know, elbows off the break, hooks off the break. I also see Chris Curtis at times landing heavy punches to the body, you know, showcasing that slip and rip boxing style where he's landing effective punches to the body, damaging punches. I also see Chris Curtis potentially bringing Roman Kopylov to the canvas, you know, really mixing it up. There's going to be moments in this fight where Chris Curtis just looks so good. And there's going to be moments where Roman Kopylov, you know, he's in control. He's controlling that space on the feet. And Chris Curtis, he's being frustrated. The same type of way that he was frustrated against Jacobe. You're seeing in that Jacobe fight, he points to the canvas and he says to Jack, let's fight. Let's fight, Jack. And Jacobe's response is, you know, Chris, we are fighting. We are. We're just not fighting the way you want to fight. We're fighting the way I want to fight. And the fight's not going your way. The fight's going the way of Jacobe. And Roman Kopylov should do the same thing. He should avoid that action-packed war with Chris Curtis and make it more like a chess match. In a game of chess, you take turns, you know, you go, I go, you go, I go. We're taking turns. It's not as chaotic, but in a fight, sometimes, you know, You both throw at the same time. You both go at the same time. And things can get a little chaotic. So Chris Curtis wants to bring him into that action-packed war. But it's for Roman Kopylov to show his technical striking ability and to also control the space and avoid that war at all costs. Much easier said than done. You know what I'm saying? Guys, gun to the head. Already in 2025, gun to the head. I'm going to side with Roman Kopylov via split. I think it's going to be a very, very close fight, like really close. And I'm going to favour Roman Kopylov, the Russian, the technician, in a split. Moving into the next matchup, we've got Abdulrazak Alhassan taking on Cesar Almeida, and someone's going to travel to Ben Askren. Someone's going to sleep. Alhassan, he's got kill shot power, pure dustoration power. And if you look at his last fight against Cody Brundage, he went 0 to 100 the moment the ref said fight. Now, I'm pretty sure he's not going to do the same thing, the same approach against Cesar Almeida. He's going to respect the striking of Cesar Almeida way more than what he respected Cody Brundage. But Alhassan still has kill shot power. So even if he doesn't go 0 to 100, he's still liable to land that kill shot. On the flip side, you've got Cesar Almeida, who's extremely good with his technical striking, a high-level Brazilian kickboxer. But we have seen his takedown defense. You know, it's pure dust. And I actually put on Roman Kopylov at plus 100, just based on the fact that Almeida has no defensive wrestling. So if Abdulrazak Alhassan goes for a takedown, gets a takedown, he's got lethal ground and pound. He could stop Almeida. He could stop him on the feet with a big kill shot, or he can get a takedown into ground and pound and find a kill shot that way. But Cesar Almeida, he's got more composure. He's fresher than Alhassan. He's got better cardio than Abdulrazak Alhassan. So there's more chance that Almeida sleeps Alhassan, in my opinion. And especially inside round 2. You know, you're leaving round 1. Alhassan starts to slow down. He becomes stationary on his feet. He becomes hittable. And that's where the pure dustoration is going to occur. So I'm going to take Cesar Almeida to win this fight into round 2. Moving into the next matchup, we've got Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Carlston Harris. And guys, I quite strongly believe that Santiago Ponzinibbio should be retired. He's now 38 years old, but in fight mileage, he's probably a bit older than 38. He had that nasty staph infection a few years ago that actually nearly killed him, and that probably put a good few miles on the clock. He's been badly dusted by Jingliang Li and Kevin Holland. In his win against Alex Morono, he was outclassed. You know, in the first 10 minutes, he did win this fight, but he was outclassed. Even against Miguel Baeza, another win back in 2021. You know, in the early stages of this fight, he was so hittable. I think there's an abundance of evidence that indicates Santiago Ponzinibbio, his reactions are gone, his chin's a bit dusty now, and the veteran shouldn't be taking as much damage as what he's taking these days. He shouldn't be taking damage full stop. He should be retired, in my opinion. On the flip side, you've got a quality jiu-jitsu player in Carlston Harris, who's actually very awkward on the feet. His punches are coming from weird angles. There's a weird technique to his punches, but he does throw with devastating power. So even though the technique isn't excellent, he does make up for the technique with the power. But guys, here's the thing. Carlston Harris hasn't looked good in his recent performances. I did bet him as a plus money underdog to defeat Jeremiah Wells, and he did win that fight right at the very end. But his cardio was just atrocious. His takedown defense, it was atrocious. And Ponzinibbio isn't going to wrestle. Ponzinibbio is going to stand and trade his usual fighting style of the veteran Santiago Ponzinibbio. He's going to stand and trade. He's not going to wrestle with Carlston Harris. But just looking at Carlston Harris, man, his performances haven't been good. He got dusted by Chaos Williams in round 1. So although I think Ponzinibbio should hang up the gloves, I kind of think Carlston Harris, his recent performances are performances that maybe indicate he should do the same. So guys, I guess my strong lean for this fight would be fight doesn't go the distance and just hope somebody's chin fails at some point. And it does feel quite likely that someone's chin would crumble. You've got old man Santiago Ponzinibbio and you've got old man Carlston Harris who really throws to kill and will also fold like a deck chair if you throw to kill. And they're both going to throw to kill. They're going to stand there and trade. And I think someone's going to go to sleep. What I think will happen, or should I say what I hope will happen, maybe Ponzinibbio gets his final KO for his highlight reel to end his career. Santiago, man, the Argentine brawler who just wants to stand and trade, pure violence, but he's too old to play these games these days. Can he get that final KO stoppage? I sure hope so, guys. I really do. That's the prediction. I'm going to take Santiago Ponzinibbio, the Argentine brawler, to find that KO. But the real prediction, fight doesn't go the distance. Fight doesn't go to full 15. Moving into the main event, we've got Mackenzie Dern taking on Amanda Ribas, and this is a rematch in the main event. We've got two very quality grapplers, right? We've got Amanda Ribas, who actually out-grappled Mackenzie Dern in their first fight. She was very impressive in that fight. And I didn't really understand how good Amanda Ribas really was until she showed us against Mackenzie Dern. You know, that was like the eye-opening fight that showed me just how good Amanda Ribas really is. And Mackenzie Dern's been focusing so much on her boxing. But it's my opinion that if Mackenzie Dern just solely focused on the wrestling, she would be very overpowered because her jiu-jitsu is some of the best in the UFC. But when she's unable to get her opponent to the ground, she's not able to use her lethal grappling. And that's maybe why she's focused so much on her boxing, because she knows the stand-up is equally as important as scoring on the ground if she can get the opponent to the canvas. Guys, let me know if I'm harsh with this statement, but I think Amanda Ribas has actually slightly regressed. I think she's regressed in skill. Let me know if I'm wrong with that statement. She's just very hittable, you know? Even when she fought Macy Barber, she easily got dusted in that fight. And I took Barber at like plus 200 on my lineup. Even against Luana Pinheiro in round 1, she's getting tagged up in round 1. And I know she wins that fight in spectacular fashion in the final round. But the first round does show me her defensive mistakes. Even when she fought Marina Rodriguez a few years ago, she got TKO'd twice in one fight. I think there's some good evidence that indicates Amanda Ribas is quite hittable. And I know you could find even more evidence that suggests Mackenzie Dern is also a defensively bad boxer. But the amount of time Mackenzie Dern has spent boxing, I think she could show improvements with her boxing and potentially land some big punches against Amanda Ribas, especially early. I'm not saying that Mackenzie Dern has this elite punching power. But guys, what I am saying is Mackenzie Dern potentially has some improved boxing in this rematch. And I also think she needs to prove herself in the grappling against Amanda Ribas because she got outclassed. You know, she got outclassed in both the striking and the grappling. She has to prove herself on the canvas, you know, and on the feet. Now, that brings me to my next point. Does this rematch seem necessary? Because when she gets outclassed on the feet and she gets outclassed on the ground, has Mackenzie Dern made enough improvements over the years to rewrite the script in the rematch? It's all going to come down to game plan, of course, but it's also going to come down to determination. How badly does Mackenzie Dern want to get this one back? Just based on how easily Amanda Ribas won that first fight, I do hope that Mackenzie Dern turns up to fight. Even if she loses, even if you lose this fight, at least make it close. At least prove to everyone you have progressed in your overall skill set. Now, I do believe the logical prediction is Amanda Ribas because she's already won the fight. She's more well-rounded. But how badly does Mackenzie Dern want to win the rematch? Does she truly believe she can defeat Amanda Ribas? Does she truly believe she's made the right improvements over the years in order to be successful in the rematch? It's an interesting main event to start the year, guys. It really is. I'm actually going to predict the underdog, Mackenzie Dern, to win this rematch, to win the main event. And if she doesn't win, then clearly her overall skill set hasn't improved enough. We're going to see though. We're going to see. So my prediction is going to be Mackenzie Dern to get it done and probably on the scorecards. We probably go 25. And as always, guys, drop down your main event, your co-main event, your straight bets, your parlays, your doubles, all that good stuff. Drop your Money City selections in the comment section below. And as always, keep your eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Peace.